All right. Well, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Health Made Simple show. I'm here with my host, Dr. Bart Precourt, who has been a healthcare practitioner for over 20 years, practicing a range of modalities, including chiropractic, kinesiology, acupuncture, functional nutrition and supplementation, as well as lab testing, all out of his clinic, Balance Health Studio in Seagrove Beach, Florida, as well as virtually all over the world. He's also the founder of the Health Edge program, which is a cutting edge health program for entrepreneurs and executives wanting to take their health to the next level. He's worked with celebrities and athletes all around the world, and tonight is available to answer your questions. So I always like the Q&A ones. It's always interesting. I think whenever somebody asks a question and answers that question for lots of people, you might be thinking I'm the only one with this question, but I guarantee you somebody else has thought of that question too.
Yeah, no doubt. That's one of my favorite things, because all week long or whatever, people will then say, "Oh my God, that question you answered about, whatever about, leg pain or back pain or sinuses or how to travel, that kind of stuff." Is so applicable to everything. So if you have questions, go ahead and fire away here. And that's the thing. We always have questions. Sometimes we don't want to ask them. But I want people to feel comfortable enough that this is kind of an open forum. What's the saying? Never dumb questions, just dumb people. I'm just kidding.
Yes, it's true.
Yeah.
Well, especially about the never a dumb question, right? It's only dumb if you don't ask it. So.
And then, and of course, in just the theme of, the Health Made Simple show here is that the idea that I'm going to do my best I can to always narrow it down, just to give you the quickest version to get you to the answer, to get you to the end result that you want. And the goal is always that we can, continue just to level up our health. Sometimes if we just have these little things that just kind of give us another strategy, quite frankly, when that question pops up, that is the whole goal here. Then we can get, oh, okay, I know what to do in this situation. Or I remember hearing about that. I remember them talking about that thing. So that's the whole goal tonight, or every night, that matter.
Yeah, love it. Awesome. All right. So as you said, we've already had a bunch asked and emailed in. Should we kick them off?
Yeah, let's dig in. Let's do it.
Okay. All right. All right, let's start off with one that we got emailed in. Why do finger joints swell during the summer? I even noticed it during our 10-day cleanse.
Yeah, great question. This can right across the board, this can go for any joint swelling. The way I'm going to answer this and the tools I'm going to give you to kind of answer this. So to fix this up. So there's oftentimes, I don't know that it's specific to the summer per se, but one of the things that happen, one of the simplest things, Karen, that happens when we have joints that swell is that the pH in the joint gets off. We haven't really discussed that much here on the show, but there are pH differences throughout the whole body. Like the stomach is supposed to have a very specific pH. Ideally, it's like as low as 2. And then as we get into the small intestine, it raises up close to 5. And then in the duodenum and the jejunum, it goes 5.7 and 5.6. So like there's all these different pHs throughout the body. Not everything's supposed to be super acidic. Not everything's supposed to be super alkaline. Yet your joints, the pH can get out of balance. And that is one of the reasons it swells. So when that pH gets out of balance, it essentially changes the electrolyte balance there. So whoever asked that question, this is your answer. You want to get ammonium chloride. There's a supplement we use with standard process, and ammonium chloride comes in other companies too, but I use one specifically called Cal Ammo. And it's an ammonium chloride with a little bit of a calcium. And that right there is amazing what it'll do. I've seen it work for bursitis. I've seen it, so a lot of different things, even arthritis is at times. So it's called Cal Ammo, and you're going to high dose it for a short period of time. So for like 10 days, I'd have the person take about three times a day. Interesting enough about this supplement, and I'd recommend just kind of going through the bottle because it doesn't have a real good shelf life because it oxidizes really easy. So if I have a bottle of Cal Ammo when I really want it, my joints wake up and they're just like swollen or something like that, and your diet has been pretty clean, I'll go to that Cal Ammo. But if I open that bottle like 4 months ago, it oxidize and they all stick together. So that's what I mean. So they come in small bottles to ideally just kind of use your way through it. So that's ammonium chloride. That's the simplest. Often you get very, very quick, results with that. And then of course, make sure that your electrolytes are staying balanced through the course of the summer. Down here in Florida, you walk outside right now, you start to sweat. Like it all of a sudden we were talking, my wife and I were talking about just the other day, like, man, it's been a mild summer. Like we haven't had any of those super, super hot days. And then all of a sudden, boom, here we are. You walk outside and it feels like it's 100 degrees out with humidity. So you're burning up stuff. And that is part of what changes the pH of our skin and of our joints and stuff. So, but we're keeping plenty of electrolytes in our body as well.
Yeah. Okay. I love it. Awesome. And guys, I've put the link to those supplements in the chat and into Facebook so that you can just click the link and grab them.
So, you know what? One more quick note.
Yeah.
That was me just answering as if the person was perfectly clean, like they had a good diet. I need to say the other obvious clinical thing, if that shows up into my office and it's not something, and I made an assumption there, which I probably shouldn't have, that, so many of our people that are in the tribe here watching tonight or even Facebook, your diets are pretty clean, you're doing really good things, but insulin resistance is a real reason for swollen hands.
Huh.
So that idea that we've, had sugar and carbs for, years and years and years. And we've talked a lot about how we can reverse insulin resistance, reverse type 2 diabetes. So if you fall more into that category where the diet isn't good, then we've got to go that route. And that's going to be really the route you want to take. But if your diet's clean, because I think what I did, Karen, there is I hear that even after the cleanse?
Yes. So they did the 10-day cleanse with us that we just finished up, the summer cleanse. So yeah.
Okay. Then most likely in that scenario is the first part I talked about ammonium chloride, but in the event that, you notice that there's swelling in the hands and the feet, remember that's often part of insulin resistance. That's often part of, the whole metabolic syndrome. It's farthest from the heart. It's getting the least nutrients. And we've got some other real complicating factors there. So make sure that, we're kind of looking at which category you fit into and then addressing it appropriately.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, awesome. All right, next question. Hey, Dr. Bart, quick question. My little sister has the new strain of COVID and she's on day 10 and just developed a bad rash, itching, and her hands are super swollen. Is this something that you've seen? And if so, what would you recommend for her?
Okay, couple things I think I'll address there. One, I hope your sister's going to work, do all right. And my guess is that she will. Remember, still like super high percentage of people are still going to do just fine. It might be tough, but I think like 99% or more are going to do fine. We got to weather the storm though. On day 10, she's most likely weathered the storm of the virus. And now she's dealing with the aftermath. Itchy skin, automatically think liver. And all through COVID, that was a surprise for me to see how much impact post-COVID that it had on liver and detoxification. My quick answer to this person is we use a product called Antronex. Antronex is a beef liver extract that helps. It works kind of like an antihistamine, but it does not shut down the immune system. It doesn't shut off histamine. It helps the liver drain, so you have less of a histamine effect. The itchy skin is definitely coming from it's a detox mechanism. So that's the body trying to push debris out. And again, we've talked about all the time that when we're faced with the virus, there's going to be a lot of debris after the fight. The white blood cells get beat up. The adaptive immune system is literally killing some of its own cells because the virus is taking them over. So all of these things are at play, and it's the debris afterwards. So in that individual, if she's strong enough to incorporate with a little bit of intermittent fasting, do it. If we can get a little bit of liver support in there, like milk thistle, wonderful. Go ahead and do that. Absolutely, we're carb and sugar free, and we're thinking about rebooting the system. Which, man, well, hopefully these questions provoked me to talk about the immune system more. We got to reboot the immune system, which means we've literally, like, it's almost like your army went out there and you had tanks and and guns and soldiers and boots and hats, and now you got to go replace them all. That's like your vitamin C and D and zinc. You got to replace all these things, and you've got to go make sure that the body is rebooted. And or otherwise this process goes on and on and on. So just real quickly there, they said that they has a new strain of the COVID. Unless they work for the CDC, I don't think that's accurate. And I don't mean that disrespectful. What I mean is that there's no way to test for it. So when you go to your doctor's office, they're not testing for the Delta strain. That has to be literally sent to a laboratory that has special testing. It's a very specific genome pattern. And that's what they do. That's part of what the CDC does for us. That's like they're a research lab. They take in all these different tests and they're testing people and they try to find out whether or not there's different strands going on. And again, the Delta, so people understand this, like there are multiple strains, probably 100 different strains. Usually they're named after where they came from, a Brazil strain, a UK strain, a California strain. Now that there's more and more strains, they just name them after like the Greek alphabet, like alpha, beta, et cetera, et cetera. This happens to be Delta, and this is walloping a little bit more of a punch. Right now, it seems like it has a little bit more of, a little bit more contagious. I don't know that we're seeing enough research to know right now if it is any more like lethal. Yeah, it seems to spread a little bit more. Karen, I did my darndest to figure out, and I'm this is what bugs me out. Like I'm trying to figure out how much different in this. Heck, I'm just going to talk about the immune system now. I was trying to figure out how, based on all the data that I could find from the CDC or GovMed, PubMed.org, et cetera, how much of a deviation is this Delta strain? And what I mean by that is this. Let's just say that this is what COVID looks like. It has these 4 tentacles. I was trying to find out what Delta looked like. Did it look like, was it 4+1? Was it 3.5? And that really matters. That's significant. And for us as the general public to understand, here's why. So I'm going to go back to, and I know I'm sidetracked here, but I think this is a worthy conversation. I'm going to go back to what it means to have an immune system. We have two parts of our immune system. We have what's called your innate immune system, and we have this other part called your adaptive or acquired. And this is really important. So just real quick review, your innate immune system is things like your skin. Like it's your eyes, it's your nose, your throat, it's all the mucus in your body. Things come in, it acts fast. This is how fast dust blows in your eyes water. That's part of your immune system. That part is non-specific, and anything foreign, it just gets rid of it. It could be dead or alive. If it just says, you're not supposed to be here, get out of here. And your skin protects it through sweat and just all different types of things, shivering, whatever it may be. And then we have the acquired, or what we call the adaptive. And this is such an important part of understanding, especially as we move forward. And this is what kind of disappoints me right now through all of the, the information that's out there. And I see that so much is important. Oh, that's misinformation. That's misguided. When I think that without explaining this part, I think everything out there is misinformation without understanding how we truly get healthy. And the adaptive or the acquired immune system, the way that works, Karen, is when something comes into the body, you have these B cells, and the B stands for bone marrow. They're made in your bone marrow. Like this is just another argument to make sure that we are eating healthy. These B cells go out and they check it out and they go, hey, who are you? And they're literally looking for things. And if you're not supposed to be there, sometimes what the B cell does, it like throws a little dart on you and it tags you as foreign. You're not supposed to be here. And then your other cells, called your killer T cells, your hunters, go out and they look for everyone with that tag and they kill them off. And then they develop a memory B cells and memory T cells. And this is why this part of it is so important. So when your body is exposed, and this is why I've said from the beginning, the fastest way through this is kind of through exposure. And I don't mean that insensitive, because I know that it can be life risky for people. But through exposure, we develop an immunity. We develop these T and B memory cells, which means that if it saw this before, it knows your playbook. And if it gets exposed to this before, it knows what kind of weapon to use, when to use it, how fast to use it, and to attack it. And it goes out and it beats it up. And that's what That's what the antibodies are. And some people won't even need antibodies because the system is so robust, it won't need to take all those antibodies into effect. They'll just have a low level because it can manage it really good. Here's what's important. Let's just say that the Delta strand is 4+1. When the Delta strand comes, if you've been exposed, and here's what's so important, because right now I feel like people are really, really panicking. And if we understood this, this information, which is real information about the immune system, we'd panic a little less. If you've been exposed to COVID before, and this is normal COVID, and I'm making this up, and let's just say that this is the Delta variant, it has that one extra thing out there. You have coverage for 80% of it. All these guys are covered. You just have that one strand. And though it may be contagious, you're going to handle it. It's not enough to be lethal. So for people who, like myself, who've already had COVID, there's really not a big concern. I might get a head cold. And that is also why right now with the Delta strain, they're saying what's different. The difference is that for a lot of people, they feel a little bit of a head cold.
Okay.
And for many people, that's what it's going to feel like. And I know inevitably, Karen, someone's going to holler and yell at me for this. Yet, and I want to remind people, I'm not anti-vax. I'm not for vax. I'm for education and allows us to level ourselves and move forward. The strategies we used in the past clearly didn't work. Yeah. Right. Because here we sit again, and everyone who knows the littlest bit about a virus knows that there will constantly be variants. Constant.
Yeah, there is for the flu and other viruses, right? Like we constantly get variants.
Yes, constantly. So I think one of the things I at least want to throw this out there moving forward, I just hope and pray that everyone listening here tonight just continues to show some grace moving forward. Listen, if you're vaxxed, show some grace to the other people who've chosen not to. If you're vaxxed, show some grace to those who've chosen to do it. Let's not shame each other. Let's not scare each other. And let's not use fear. The reality is, this is the stark reality. If the vaccines are working like we are suspecting that they're keeping us out of the serious illnesses, preventing death. If those are working and you're vaccinated, awesome. You're not going to die. Doesn't mean that you're not going to catch it. You might go through little symptoms. They've said that from day one. And now with each and every day that passes, we learn that, yes, you're still very vulnerable to get COVID again and test positive for. We've seen all these sports players testing positive and whatnot, and no big deal. They're getting through it. And that, quite frankly, I think was the hope of the vaccine, that we would slow down or reduce the mortality rate. So awesome. But with that same breath, I think it's very important. And I know this is a small section of people here, but maybe just as a small group, we start to show the grace. If you're vaccinated or unvaccinated, if you're vaccinated, you don't need anyone else to be vaccinated because you're safe. Let the people who've chosen, for whatever reason, they're choosing not to do it. And I will tell you clinically, behind closed doors, there are some very, very valid reasons people are not getting vaccinated, but they feel so shamed and so afraid, not of the virus, but of what their current neighbors and friends and family are thinking and saying of them. And it breaks my heart when I hear that, because listen, it's just a choice. But if you're vaccinated, fortunately, you have chosen something that should protect you. So, and if you're unvaccinated at this point, it's because you've chosen to, because it's free on like every corner. Like there's a sign, there's a signal everywhere. I think like, the kids are giving away in the street, and I'm joking. Like it's literally
totally. It's available.
So you got to imagine at this point that people want it, have it, and people who don't want it, don't want it for many reasons. I have no problem telling people I'm unvaccinated. I've worked for decades working on my immune system, and you know what I mean? I worked decades to keep my body clean. I won't put a French fry in my body. So for that, I should have the ability to choose to, put something in my body or not to do it, and not be shamed by other people. And then secondary, because listen, some people didn't get COVID. I also have the antibodies. So I know if my body goes into the fight, I'm going to do good on the other end of it. But most importantly here, so I want to back up here And this might be the most significant thing that I say, and then I want everyone to share it tonight. I was just on pubmed.org again. Boring, absolutely boring. This is where I spend my free time nowadays. Not to be digging up research. It's boring. I practice every day. I get research every single day. So I'm reading there, and I saw an article a while ago by Dr. Mercola talking about vitamin D. So just a real quick review here on vitamin D and why, if you're going to take action, if there's one thing you're going to do, vaccinated or unvaccinated, load up on vitamin D. And listen, don't guess, because I'm telling you right now, 99 out of 100 tests I take, people are low.
Yeah. Even in Florida, right?
Even in Florida, and even if you're taking it. I have people that I test because vitamin D is partially a hormone. It's really a hormone more than it's a vitamin. And you need good gut health. So you may need to take a lot more than you're taking. You can, if you just want to test it, go down to a lab. You can walk down to a lab down here, go in yourself. It'll cost you about $39. Get tested. And here's why. This is, to me, the most important thing we can be doing right now. A virus does nothing. This is part of when people say it's misinformation, to me, not letting the general public know this part of it is disturbing. A virus can do nothing unless it gets inside your cell. If you're just exposed to it, no big deal. It has to get inside your cell. We've talked about this a dozen times in this show, Karen. What protects the outer layer of the cell? Vitamin D. There's a double lipid layer around the outside of the cell. It means there's a force field. That lipid layer is predominantly vitamin D. The other ones, vitamin A, D, E, and K, are all important for that. Vitamin D is the most important one. If you have ample, and I'm going to get to the research that I talked about in just a moment here. If you have ample, it's a defense mechanism, the virus cannot get in. That's the coolest thing. It's better than a mask, and it's better than a vaccine because it actually is making you stronger. So the virus can't do anything for you. The virus is not a live entity. It doesn't travel around like a bacteria does. It can do nothing without your host. So absolutely incredibly important. Then the no-brainers too, vitamin C. Vitamin C is water soluble. You got to take it every day. You got to take a lot of it. The beauty of it, they got to take the full complex, not just the ascorbic acid that you're getting down from CVS. And if you don't know, Karen, in fact, put that vitamin C, is called Congaplex C.
Yeah.
6 a day minimum. It's water soluble. A stressful day, it's gone the following day. That will give the white blood cells ammunition. It's also, vitamin C is partially used to signal. It's like a messenger that signals the white blood cells, which is what's going to do the battling for you. And then, of course, zinc, folks. Zinc will be mostly on the inside of the cell here, and in the event that virus does get inside your cell, it's going to inhibit from spreading. That's the simplest way I can say it. So if you did those three things, you did them regularly, and of course, we're going to lower sugar and lower stress and get better sleep, those fundamentals, you can go to bed feeling good. Even if someone is shaming you, or even if someone's trying to scare you, if you're doing those things, you're going to be good. Now to the research. I know this is supposed to be Q&A, but I almost have to get this off my chest. Now we're going to
let's hear it. That's awesome.
Okay, now to the research. And you guys can do this too. It's pubmed.org, and you type in vitamin D levels in COVID as high as 9 out of 10 COVID deaths had significantly low vitamin D levels. Now, Karen, in these, 9 out of 10. And that's under 20 micrograms per milliliter or per unit, whatever, which is clinically, I'm saying that's not even close to where we should be. So if you're even close to where I think you should be, which is, say that scale goes 0 to 100, I think everyone should be living right around 70, 75, 80, maybe 90, heck now. But you don't need to really be over 100 at this point. But if you lived up in there, it would just show statistically, people who love science, man, that's clinical research. That's what turns into, the studies that we have. Remember, science is very slow, but clinical research is very, very fast. 10 people come in today feeling like such and such. I give them such and such. They feel different. That's clinical research. And we have tens of thousands of cases to go by right now. So if you take anything away from tonight's talk, if you're going to share anything with your people on Facebook, if you're going to share anything, here from the Zoom, let them know. Still boost up your vitamin D levels, even in the summer, even here in Florida, boost them up, because that may be the game changer for any individual. May boil down to that one factor of our levels of vitamin D.
Yeah, which is crazy. And how cool would it be if we were handing those out? That could be in a stand at every shopping center or something, right? Let's give people vitamin D. That would be amazing.
Yeah, don't get me started, Karen.
That would be amazing, but yes, not happening at the moment. But I think it's a good reminder, because we start off at the beginning of all this taking the C, the D, and the zinc, but it's still just as relevant now. Really, people need to keep taking that, and I've put all the links to those in the chat as well if you guys want to grab it.
Yeah, I think it's not only as relevant, I think it might even be more relevant now, because and again, our immune system is very responsive to stress, to sleep, to all those things. And again, I can tell you this clinically at this point, I really think that people that want to get vaccinated are for the most part vaccinated, and people that don't want to get it are for the most part not vaccinated. And the people that are then all of a sudden just getting vaccinated at this point, I find it's not because of research. It's not because of the data that comes out. It's because the shame and fear. And it's very difficult. I never encourage to make a decision based on fear. And again, I have plenty of friends and I have plenty of clients that are on both sides of, making these decisions. I still love them all. I still care for them all. I treat them the same as patients. And that, when you get to the end of I'm going to tell you my question, my action tonight, my last question of the evening, be have more grace. Even if you're not receiving it, give more grace. Let's continue to spread the love a little bit, because we're entering and shame on the people that are in leadership positions that are dividing us, as some people have this, some people have that, and they're telling you can't work here and you can work here, and shame on all those people. They're not leaders in my eyes. Those are people that are operating out of a shame and fear, and no one that does that should be in a leadership role. And we've seen a lot of it right now. So I would say for all of us, continue to operate as much as we possibly can out of that place of love and grace. And then listen. And then when you're making your own decisions, make it from that same place. Does this serve me at a higher level? Does this help me become the best person of myself? Instead of just being stubborn, don't be either way. Don't be fearful or stubborn.
I love that, because I think that this is one of the saddest things that's coming out of all of this. And you talk about what's happening in your country, but in Australia at the moment, there's so much separation and segregation, and even states are arguing, and we're suddenly Western Australia, we're all Australia, and then this state is it's gotten, and then yes, people that are vaccinated and not vaccinated, the fighting over that and the separation has gotten to new levels. I think that, and for me, I think that's one of the saddest things. If we are going through a pandemic, let's all come together. Let's try to help each other, whatever the choice is that people make. So anyway, I love that. A follow-on question from that, it kind of leads in. We had someone write in and ask, my kid has had a mask on for most of the last year. Is there anything I should be concerned about or do to help his immune system?
Yeah, and I tell you what, that's a very, very, very good question. You said kid going back to school, so my guess, we're going to call that person under 16 years old. And so, listen, all the moms and dads out there, please listen closely. If you're a teacher, listen closely. There is a very definitive time where we develop the most amount of our immunity. You remember we just talked about two parts: the innate immune system and then the acquired or the adaptive. And the acquired, obviously, we're getting from our parents, literally from your mom. And then there's the adaptive that as we get exposed to things, we learn how to adapt to it. If we've had a mask on for say, a year, and the child is only 8 years old, that's 1/8 of their life. In one of the most critical times for them to literally be adapting day in and day out. We've heard it all the time. That's what kids do. They got to get colds. They got to get runny noses. And every time they're doing it, that's their immune system adapting. So no doubt, everything we just talked about, vitamin C, D, and zinc, we have to help their immune systems be robust. If that was my child, I'd get as soon if you have to play by the rules, you got to do what you got to do. The moment they get out of there, you get that mask off their face and you help them be adaptive. Children right now, they're safe. And I say that confidently. Children are safe. They're not dying. They're safe. Can they get COVID? Sure. But we're not, and I don't think anyone's trying to say, hey, we never want to get sick again in our lives. So we're not going to avoid that. You got to go live yourself in a bubble or something. I assume we're still on the same page. Everyone's saying that we just don't want to die, and your children are not going to die. Yet we have to pay close attention to that. If you continue to put a mask on them 6, 7, 8 hours a day in what normally would be interacting, touching each other without all that, those creams and sanitizers and all that stuff, like passing back microbiome, talking it to each other, all of that takes place is how a child builds their immune system. That otherwise we suppress that individual physically, emotionally, and with their immune system. So I think it's a great question. I think it's valid. I think if you're a parent, I think you should stand up for health education big time right now. If they're going to teach all these other things about masking and standing in line and standing on this dot and over here in this place and be social distancing, I think you should stomp up and down and ask that your school teach about the innate immune system and adaptive immune system and really where health comes from. I think you need to put your money where your mouth is. Like these schools, like down here, we got a lot of schools that, they're private schools and stuff like that. And I think that you should step up and be like, sure, I'll do this. So if you're going to force my kid to wear a mask, and there's no research behind that, zip, not a none. Then maybe you teach them some health education. There's plenty of people out there, Karen, like myself. Probably shouldn't say this, but if one of the local schools asked me to do it and they told me that all the teachers and all the parents would show up, I'd go teach for free. I wouldn't charge a dime, and I'd go teach a program like this. I'm not going to do it to the kids because ultimately decision makers are the parents and those teachers. So I'm getting completely derailed here. I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore.
But hey guys, if you want Dr. Bart to come talk at your school. Anyway, well, there's a follow-on question from that as well. We've got someone here said, if someone you love has taken the vaccine, what is the best protocol to help their system?
Yeah, that's a great question. I love it because we know that we're putting something into the body that's creating a spike protein. So we covered this probably, 6 months ago. And
we did, yes. We had a whole episode on it. So I can find that episode as well and link it in. But what was it? There were some main supplements that would be really good to help them.
The primary thought process, and I love the question because that's exactly how we should be thinking. Instead of like shaming and whatnot, we should be, all right, I'm going to take this. Is there a possibility of a side effect? Yes. Is there, like, for them to say it's just safe and effective, it does nothing to the body, they're wrong. There's definitely side effects from it. So we want to clean the liver so the body can process. So anything that comes in is going to go through the liver. So my favorites here are going to be cod liver oil, milk thistle, and turmeric forte. And those are going to help the body down-regulate inflammation and purge it out of the liver.
Yeah, awesome. And I'll just add those supplements in for you guys as well, because they're really, we've talked a lot about turmeric forte and cod liver oil, especially as really daily part of a daily routine, right?
Yeah. And again, this all speaks to one of the reasons why, listen, I think all fish oils are good. They all have DHA and EPA. One of the reasons I lean clinically to always I'm kind of an advocate of cod liver oil is because it has naturally occurring vitamin D and A. Remember that cell wall, that double lipid layer, vitamin A, vitamin D. That's what protects us here. So again, it's my favorite there. And again, those are great, just responses to, if I know I'm going to put something foreign into my body, how am I going to help my body facilitate this? And then of course,
similar to, was it last week? We talked about other medications, kind of a similar thing. There are times that we need to take some of this stuff, or maybe we've chosen to take the vaccine, or we have to take an antibiotic, or we have to take something. And that's the best question to ask. So then how do we counteract that? What can we do to help our body, support our body through taking that supplement or that medication?
Yeah, 100%. Again, it really should be an and world.
Yeah.
We have to live in an environment that says, man, I have to be on one side or the other. I know, like, it's so weird how like everything seems to always come down to like, like, it can't be like, well, I had to use a medication and therefore I'm going to use these herbs to get it out of my body, or I'm going to load up on this vitamin.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah, it would be.
Why not?
Amazing. All practitioners would, listen, I'm no expert in drugs. Last week we did a whole thing on different medications, but it really, the most I know about those medications, not how they facilitate in the body, but really what they're doing to the micronutrients in the body. So if you guys missed that and you're happy to be on some medications, I covered like the top, maybe like 8 or 10 different medications and what they're doing to the different nutrients in the body, how they could be depleting them. And so instead of me just sitting here and tell you, well, you should never take Xanax or something, right? What is that inhibiting in the body? And then how do you counterbalance that deficiency?
Yeah, for sure. All right, we've got another follow-on question from that. My sister works for the state or county as a social worker and has to wear a mask. She has developed a polyp in her nose that I can only assume is from bacteria in the mask. Is there anything that would help her?
Yeah. So if that polyp is developing, then the body's definitely collecting toxins. Oddly enough, it is a natural immune response, and that's part of her body trying to defend herself. Yet it's kind of losing that battle, and most likely she is regurgitating air, regurgitating moisture, making things very, very vulnerable for like a bacterial situation. So again, I love intermittent fasting, but specifically think of the mucosal lining. That's what's really going on in there. So got to get the sugars down immediately. I know that seems odd for a nose thing, but we got to make sure that in a scenario like that, that sugar and carbohydrates are really, really down low. Intermittent fasting is fantastic here. Acidifying the body, apple cider vinegar is really, really good. Peppermint as a one of these guys, essential oil.
Yeah.
Really good there. So anything that helps acidify is really good. And then same thing, like mask hygiene. I can't use the same mask every day. Like it's got to go. Like it's literally got to go. I'm going to go as far as saying, Karen, health-wise, probably replacing your mask about every hour. Like if we're down to this, like if we're really doing this about health, you probably should be replacing your mask every hour, because there's just no way to regurgitate that much air, that much moisture without making a vulnerability for something else. So, but if she's wearing one every day, make sure she's practicing good, mask hygiene. She needs a new mask every day, no doubt. Acidify. There are some things that we use. There's something that would be really good for her. Just came to my mind. Something is an herbal blend we use, without going into too much detail. It's called Sinus Forte. It's an herbal blend. It's from MediHerb from Australia that we use. Maybe you can put that into the notes there as well.
Sinus Forte. What did you say? Sorry, Sinus
Forte.
Yeah, cool. Okay, yeah, I'll add that link in the chat as well, so that you guys can get that. All right, we got another question. Let's change tracks a little bit, because we've got a couple other questions in the chat here. We've got one here. How to lower lipoprotein A?
How to lower lipoprotein A? Well, lipoprotein A's, for the most part, is going to be more genetic based.
Right.
So if someone has a high lipoprotein A, you really want to look upstream. And I guess they already have this. They've looked at the rest of their cholesterol panel, and they've seen like their LDLs and their HDLs and their triglycerides. If those LDLs are low on the high side, that's when we start to really look at the lipoprotein A's. And we can do that. And some of the simpler ways is, again, go to some of the strategies of fasting. We want to lower those overall numbers that we have there. That's probably the simplest way for me to say it right now. It is more of an eye opener. What we usually take those numbers for, Karen, is we look at the lipoprotein A's to give us influence of what we really need to be doing when we're looking at the cholesterol panel. Because sometimes we see the panel and we're like, oh, no big deal. It's a little high, a little low. But if we see the other markers, and the panels I run, I do the same thing. I look at all those other numbers to give us kind of like fuel to the fire. Now we got to clear some of that other stuff up. Other things, make sure that you have plenty antioxidants in your body. Like I love CoQ10 for this. Your fish oil is super good. Intermittent fasting, of course, low carb, low sugar. A lot of the strategies that we talk about will be the best strategy for lipoproteinase.
Okay. And if people wanted to do your lab panels, can they do that no matter where they are, or do they have to come to Seagrove Beach?
No, they can come to Seagrove Beach because it's just awesome here. So they're always welcome to come. And they can visit our cafe, Prema Organic Cafe, right next door.
Yes. Oh my God, I want to come so much.
100% organic, gluten-free and canola oil free, soy free, anything they want. Cold pressed juices. There's a little shameless plug there. Anyways, but no, they don't. They don't have to come here. We can send it. We literally will send them an email requisite. So they would then get an email and they could go to their local lab corp. They could be anywhere, doesn't matter. Or we can, if you're local, we can even send you a kit. If you don't want to come to the office, we can send you a kit if you want to get a blood draw locally. And then once you get the blood drawn, then we sit down like this. We do a Zoom. We have a nice, time block. Plenty of time for us to sit down, review everything. I get a little more history for you, and then we develop a strategy to help you become superhuman.
Love it. Awesome. And so I put those contact details there if you guys do want to get a consult or find out any more about lab testing packages. Okay, next question. Anything you can do for stomach pain that is relieved by eating? What does this mean?
Kind of simple. If you have stomach pain and it's very painful, and then when you eat, it relieves it, most likely you have developed yourself an ulcer. So the first thing that comes to mind, and we talked about this before, is Chlorophyll Complex. That is basically plant blood. They come in these little pearls. If the best way, it does make your mouth a little bit green, but it's really, really helpful immediately. You bite the capsules, 2 or 3 of them, and do it 2 or 3 times a day. You don't have to bite all of them, but it soothes it very, very fast. Intermittent fasting. And listen, anything gut, I could just start the conversation by saying intermittent fasting to help your gut have a timeout.
Okay.
And because if you have an ulcer, you need a timeout. And usually people with ulcers, they want the pH. It feels better when the pH is higher, like it's more alkaline. It feels better versus acidic. So they eat more carbs and sugar.
Whereas that's not helping.
No, it's part of the problem.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. All right, we got a dog question. Want to hit a dog question? We answer questions for animals and or for dogs and humans here, right?
Of course.
Okay, my dog has separation anxiety. Is there anything I can do?
Yeah, so I guess it probably provokes me to probably tell you what I should have said earlier, that in a Q&A like this, remember that I'm not acting as your doctor.
Yes, that's true. Or a veterinarian.
All right, and I'm just I'm giving you as much input as I can to help you level up your own health, etc. So, and again, I'm not a veterinarian, but you might know that I have a couple dogs, and
you have more than a couple, but yes.
Yes, we have multiple dogs. My wife is the pack leader when it comes to them, and she is probably best suited to answer this question, but I'll answer it because we deal with this. So, doggy anxiety is real, or separation anxiety is real. Sometimes they've always had it. Sometimes they develop it over time. So there's 2 ways that we always suggest to do it. One is through the behavior and one is through the physiology. And the one through the behavior, sounds really simple, and it can be very helpful. If you leave and the dog watches you leave, and then it's freaking out, and you got a camera at home, which a lot of us do now, and you're seeing the dog now and ripping up the door and the couch and all that stuff. You need to repeat leaving so frequently and just do a shorter duration so it becomes a boredom to the dog. So go through your whole routine. Here's what not to do. Oh, Georgie, I'll be right back. It's okay. You're going to be fine. And go through that whole emotion of it. Do not do that. You grab your bag, you walk straight out the door. You don't look, you don't touch, you don't talk. This is critical. The moment you touch, talk, and look, the dog's like, uh-oh, I'm never going to see you again.
Okay.
You are giving that energy to your dog. So here's one of the ways you can do it. You literally can just walk out your front door. Don't touch, don't talk, no eye contact. You just walk out the front door, literally 15 seconds, come back in. And just keep doing that. So the dog doesn't, it gets exhausted. It burns off that energy of thinking that you're never coming home again.
Yeah.
So that practice right there, remember, this is the key. No touch, no talk, no eye contact.
Is that just when you leave, or how about when you come back?
When you get back.
Huh? Nothing.
Nothing. You walk past the dog. And listen, I get it. I'm guilty. We are training the dog. If every time we come back, oh my goodness, yay, they're freaking out and you're freaking out. We all do it. Every single one of us is guilty of doing this, but we are training our dog.
Freaks out when we come home. Yeah.
We're training them. Yeah. You know,
yeah. She doesn't mind when we leave, but she freaks out when we come back.
Yeah. So no touch, no talk, no eye contact. Just go in, drop your bags. When the dog changes that mode, then you address the dog.
Okay.
And it's amazing how fast this works if you're disciplined to do it.
Okay.
So I'm laughing her butt off right now listening to me say this.
Because you're as pathetic as me at it?
I mean, on the ground wrestling with them every time I come home. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and what about physiology? What can we do there?
We want to help their physiology, which means that we can help them on a biochemical level, which usually means either with the hormones or an herb or vitamin or mineral. So Ashwagandha Forte, the same one I use for humans, works phenomenal. It's safe and it's gentle. They don't need much. We use it with one of our dogs regularly. He is super, super, super nervous. And they're like children. They're all different. They're just because, you know, two of them do it one way, it doesn't mean everyone's going to do it the same way. So we use Ashwagandha Forte. And the beauty there, Karen, is it works when you give it. And yeah, so, and if we know there's going to be something, so for example, we've had a real stormy season and thunder and stuff. And one of the dogs that we recently rescued, man, this dog, everything perfect about him, but he don't like no thunder. Like,
aww,
guy, he's just scared. So same thing. We use some ashwagandha for him, which is phenomenal. We do use we use a hemp complex. There's one that Standard Process makes called Canine Hemp Complex. Or if you don't have that, you can use the human version of it, and it's just a dropper. I prefer the hemp complex versus some of the CBDs because I don't want to mix any THC for my animals, period. So if you just go with the pure hemp, it has all the same attributes of CBD without any THC, which is cool. So that's always healthy. And then I'll use kava.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, again, it's got to be a water-based kava. The one we use is super safe and gentle. And what I like about these, Karen, I'm not drugging, I'm not manipulating the dog's physiology. I'm working with the natural and innate, you know, inherent capabilities of the dog's system. And really what I'm saying is the simple way of saying that they're stuck in sympathetic dominance. That's the anxiety. And these tools, ashwagandha, the hemp, the kava, all help it switch over to parasympathetic. That's all we want them to do. We want our little friends to just be, you know, as calm and not as scared as can be. So there you go.
Love it. Kelly has commented, I love that you're the dog whisperer. All right, we've got another comment another question in the chat here. Can we talk about heartburn?
Yeah, so I think that was kind of wide open, but typically heartburn, as odd as it's going to sound, it's a lack of acid in the stomach. Yes, and I know we often think that. So heartburn, indigestion, all of those, everyone describes those a little bit different. Usually what I recommend, the first thing you do is get some Zypan. It's a digestive enzyme. You can wait for that heartburn and literally take 2 and see if it doesn't calm it down. That'll let you know right away that you had an imbalance in the in the pH, which is, we need more acid in the gut. So everyone describes their heartburn, their indigestion, their burning, their reflux. They all have a different word for it, but they're all similar when we get down to it clinically. So Zypan, digestive enzyme, first thing, just helping your body every day with a little bit of apple cider vinegar is also a good helpful, tool as well.
Yeah. Awesome. Love it. All right. We've got another question here. Being vegetarian, how can I increase my ferritin level? Mine is at 12 now.
Okay. And that's pretty low. We want to make sure that, that's pretty low. And if your ferritin level is low, you're going to have a very difficult time absorbing iron, which as a vegetarian, you're going to have a hard time. Like, you're already, playing without, like, you're down a man kind of. So there is something that we use specifically for this called Ferrofood. This is to literally help that ferritin receptor and also give you a little iron, and it's plant-based, 100%. And oddly enough, and listen, I'm not against vegetarian. This is the only product I use. I do not use iron pills. I only use the plant-based ones because we got to be very careful, because remember, iron is a trace mineral, and we got to be very careful not putting too much iron to the body, because what we'll see, and we see it all the time, you see people with constipation because they're taking these iron pills and stuff. So for the person to ask about the ferritin levels, ideally get those up to like above 30s minimum, but I'd like to see them 50, 60, 70. Use Ferrofood. Start off with 2. Usually 1 is going to be enough. Start off with 2 in the morning. Give it 30 to 60 days. Give yourself a retest. If you don't see those levels starting to creep back up, take more. Maybe you'll double it until you get those back up, because if they're that low, your energy levels are probably not what they could be. And you'd probably be blown away if you just get that level, just that ferritin back up to a decent level. You'll feel like a different woman.
Yeah. Awesome.
Again, I'm not acting as your doctor. I'm just giving you suggestions to level up your own health. Yes.
100%. Awesome. Okay. Next question here. Ovarian cysts, what causes them, and also what causes them to rupture?
Okay, so a great question. And so this is a really good question, because basically every cycling woman, for the most part, has had an ovarian cyst. And some have experienced them rupture. So let's talk about the why. Well, let's talk about the rupture first. The rupture, they'll pop on their own. There's no real reason they'll pop. You could literally be exercising, they could pop. They can get too big and they'll pop. And when they do pop, usually you have a really, really sharp sense of pain, and that goes away. You may have some vaginal bleeding, almost like you had like a breakthrough or something like that. Might not. If not, your body will reabsorb that's all the extra fluid, the tissue, move it through the body. That's where your bile will pick some of it up, and you'll move it through the body perfectly harmless. Cysts will often, because of where they're going to be in your ovaries, which if you put your fingers on your hip bones, and then you went around to where underneath your belly button, dropped back down about an inch and then out, they're really, really low. And right behind them is what we call your SI joint. And that SI joint is when you have ovarian cysts consistently, it's real popular, real common that you'll have SI joint. And usually it's just one side. Like, it can vary, but usually don't have pain on both sides. So for me, I'm always like in the back of my mind for women that come in and be like, I have pain. They're not talking directly on the spine, but off to the right or off to the left. And it can be random. Like they just moved one little spot and boom. And that's often because there's a cyst sitting really, really close to that SI joint, means sitting close to those nerves. All right. So just make sure that if you are seeing your chiropractor, like maybe one day have that conversation. Or any chance I got a cyst, and what can I do about it? So what causes ovarian cysts typically? So there's really 2 reasons, Karen. One is estrogen dominance. And what is the best way for us to balance estrogen dominance? Is a nutrient called iodine. Okay. Yeah. And this is so important and so effective. So if you're already taking iodine, you're still getting cysts. It just means that your estrogen's running so high, your life is busy, you're stressed, whatever, you might be eating things, you might like soy, whatever. So we just got to be really mindful. But iodine, I can't say enough how important it is that women, unless you have hyperthyroidism, like you don't want to take extra iodine. But other than those people, not hypo, but hyper, other than that, almost all women should be taking some level of iodine. And let me explain why. So the number 1 gland where it's stored the most in the human body is the thyroid gland. Number 2 is the ovaries. Number 3 is the breast tissue. So if you're a woman and you're low in iodine, like your hormonal imbalance, good luck. You can measure progesterone, estrogen, testosterone all day long, and you'll never feel that balance and then listen, iodine, it's kind of like a balancer. It inhibits the expression of estrogen from going too high. It doesn't force it low. It hunts down cancer. It does a lot of really important things. So taking a little bit of iodine, you could use something. We use something called bromelain iodine. Just one a day in the morning would be fine. If you take it, so listen, if you take it, because sometimes it can almost make you feel like you have energy. If you take bromelain iodine, and that's about 600 micrograms, not grams, micrograms. If that seems like too much, you could drop down and use a different product that we have called trace minerals. And that's much lower. It'll be about 150, I believe, which is a very, very small amount. One of the reasons in our country it's so difficult, it would be for you guys as well. The only place you can really get it in your diet is sea kelp.
Yeah, which we're not eating a lot of.
Yeah. So in the other place, it's supposed to come from trace minerals, and trace minerals are so depleted worldwide because there's so much farming. So taking this as a supplement should almost be like, again, like a no-brainer for most women.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. I've put those links in the chat for people as well. Along with you said, if you think you've had too much, take the trace minerals. How do you know if you've had too much iodine, or how do you know if you should go back to the trace minerals?
What I'll see, and it's very rare, I almost don't want to mention, but sometimes what I'll see is if people take too much iodine, they might get a little jittery.
Oh, okay. All
yeah.
Right.
They could just wean off. They can take half of it, or they can just say, I'll build up to it, because you can build up to it, because you don't want to just be like, oh, I can't take it. You need to build up to it. And I see a lot of women make that mistake. They'll be like, well, I was told I should take 3 grams, 4 grams a day. I'm talking about 600 micrograms. It's like, it's not even a fraction of a gram. But the dosing should be the 2, 3, 4, 5 grams a day. And that's a lot. So if we just start small, but I tell you, and how do I know this? I put people on too much before and they get too jittery, because most women should have, they can't handle.
Yeah.
To kind of titrate up to that.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Next question. I'm about to travel. What precautions should I be taking?
Anytime we travel, I think there's really 3 go-to things. One, make sure you go rested. Try to bring some habits and patterns, like the flow, your natural, energy with you. Bring your pillow, bring your toothbrush. The more rhythm you have with you, that'll keep you in circadian rhythm. Do the best that you can. 3 things I'm going to encourage you to bring. 3 supplements that absolutely positively you can do more than this, but there's 3 you got to bring. One's called Congaplex. We've talked about this in our home medicine cabinet. Take it and not just wait until something goes wrong, because that's the one you use the moment you notice anything, your ears, your throat, whatever, you start taking it. This, when you travel, you start taking 2 twice a day, every single day. And the moment you notice anything, you compound that. You'll take 4 3 times a day. The herb that matches with that perfectly is something called Andrographis. Andrographis is phenomenal. It's echinacea, holy basil, and there's something else in there. I forget. Oh, and the Andrographis herb. Those 3 right there, they're killers. Meaning that they will help defend your immune system as well as any herb on the face of this earth will. You take 1 or 2 of those every day while you're traveling. And then if you notice anything, you take 6 a day. The one other, maybe more important than those guys, is something called Zypan. It's a digestive enzyme. Zypan will help that innate immune system. Part of your innate immune system is your stomach acid. That's where you're going to be the first line of defense to kill bacteria, bugs, parasites. So if you're traveling, listen, most people pick up parasites when they travel. So make sure that you have a digestive enzyme. You are acidifying your gut all the time when you travel. Those are absolute musts.
Okay. Love it. Awesome. Well, I think we've gotten through most of our questions here. So let's move on to our last question, which you already kind of answered, but let's finish on that anyway. What's one action our listeners can take to move them towards their goal of becoming superhuman?
Yes, have more grace.
Yeah.
And I say that now, that's something and I say have more grace for for everyone around us. We have to lead the way at the end of the day. Take it through your actions, your words, your kindness. There's a lot of division that's taking place. And again, I do not do not support any leader out there that is dividing us. There's just no sense. It doesn't make the world a better place. So let's step up a little bit. Let's have more grace. Let's be kind. Let's be compassionate to each other. Lead through your own actions, and do your absolute best you can not to make any decisions based on being shamed or being out of fear. and give yourself like that space and that place to have grace for yourself as well. So long story, but have more grace.
I love it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everybody, again, for tuning in. We will be back same time, same place for another episode of the Health Made Simple show.
Yes, of course. Thank you, everyone, for joining along once again here tonight. And keep doing your thing, keep sharing it out, keep spreading the love. And then, of course, as usual, we're going to take deliberate action for your mind, your body, your overall wellness, and you'll be awesome.